All right, good evening and welcome. You're tuned in and watching the Zone Blitz by NFL Female. This is our Tuesday night webcast. Be sure to jump on our website, www.nflfemale.com, and check out all the great articles by all the women who cover not just the 32 NFL teams, but the divisions. And I am Sharona. I cover the entire NFL for NFL Female. We are without a couple of our regulars tonight. Sonia had an event to attend for her husband. We were going to have a guest fill in for her, Traci McCartney. She may be running late, so we'll get her in here if she can make it. But I do have our Seattle Seahawks OFR with me tonight, and always happy to have Russell Baxter from Bleacher Report, from NFL Spin Zone, and currently been doing some work for CBS. Russell is such a great resource, and we're so thankful here at NFL Female to have him be so supportive of us and be so willing to come on our shows and join us. It does look like Traci has been able to join us. So without further ado, I'll bring Dayna in first and let her introduce herself, and then we'll get Russell going we're going to bring you guys some previews of the conference game, and we'll talk a little bit about the divisional games as well. So Dayna, tell everybody who you are.
Hi, Dayna O'Gorman. I am the official fan reporter for the Seattle Seahawks for NFL Female. I also write for 12th Man Rising, which is part of the Fan-Sided Network. And I host our weekly Wednesday night podcast, Wednesday Night with NFL Female.
All right, Russell, take it away.
Well, my name's Russell Baxter, and I'm not Dayna O'Gorman. I couldn't help it. Yeah, I'm very proud to be part of NFL Female, and I've gotten a chance in the last year or so to not only watch and read everything they do, not everything, because the volume of work that's on this website is enormous, and they cover all bases, and I highly recommend that you check it out. But last year in Canton, I actually got to sit down and meet some of the ladies who I had not met before. And strange as it may sound, they actually stay in touch with me anyway. I currently work, as Sharona so kindly said, feature columnist for Bleacher Report, editor and writer for NFL Spin Zone. I also do some freelance work with CBS Thursday Night Football this year. I have some private clients. I do a lot of radio. I refer to my life as the longest winning streak in the history of life. Been doing this for about 35 years in one form or another, be it television, media. I get to talk about what other people do, okay? So for those of you who sometimes hear some of my brethren complain about their jobs, just stop them before they dig themselves deeper, okay? We get to write about and watch while you guys do all the work. Football players do all the work. We sit and watch. Don't complain about the hot dog in the press box.
Well, Russell is absolutely fantastic, and if you haven't checked out his work, definitely do so. We're going to get Traci in here and let her introduce herself too. I think that I've confused Traci. I had her on my podcast last week, and we did a 9 o'clock Central meetup, so I threw her a wrench in her plans. We're so happy to have her join us. Traci, thanks again. Tell everybody out there who you are and about who you cover.
Hi, I'm Traci McCartney, and I just started this year, so I am an amateur. I'm a newbie covering the New England Patriots for NFLfemale.com. And I've been a huge sports fan my whole life, and I'm so excited to be a part of this sisterhood and be able to talk shop with other like-minded women and men. So it's really exciting.
I'm glad you snuck me in there, Traci.
Of course.
Yeah, and we are thankful to have Russell. But just to touch a little bit, it is great.
Listen, let's cut to the chase here. You're thankful, and Dayna will vouch for this. you're thankful because I have the bourbon meatballs recipe.
Yes,
That's why you're
absolutely. Although I never got to try them, and so
Well, we're
I
back in Canton this
I
year,
got
and
the dent, but not the balls.
I already promised Jennifer Lee Chan, that when I get out to San Francisco, I had to make her some meatballs. It's kind of a tradition thing. It was somebody gave me the recipe about 17 or 18 years ago. It's not even my recipe, but some people think for some reason I invented it. But it's good stuff. As Dayna will attest, they're pretty tasty.
Very.
Sounds awesome.
Well, I'm jealous. I want some. I love meatballs.
Well, when you get to
give
Canton
me
next
meatballs.
year, you'll be fine. Just make sure you have a designated driver.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. If all goes according to plan, I will definitely be in Canton this year. It's very sad that I wasn't able to make it last year. Let's go ahead and get started. Big weekend last weekend, the divisional matchups. Sad Sunday for my girl Dayna, but wow, what a comeback. We'll start with the Saturday games, though. It really was a fantastic weekend of football. Russell, which one of the games, and we'll include Saturday and Sunday as well, which one of the games, if any of them, surprised you the most, and which one did you think was the better matchup?
I think what surprised me the most was Kansas City's inability to get any heat on Tom Brady. This was a team that had 47 sacks during the regular season and 3 more in the wild card game against Kansas City. He also had 29 takeaways during the regular season, 5 more against Brian Hoyer in the wild card playoffs. They get against the Patriots, no sacks, no takeaways. That was part of their doom in that game. I think people don't realize that the Chiefs actually ran 82 offensive plays against New England. I think New England only ran 56, but they didn't capitalize. And that was kind of the story for the Chiefs all along. Even when they were winning, moving the football, not being able to punch it into the end zone. Their offense only scored 2 touchdowns in the Houston game, even though they won by 30-0. And the same thing, 2 more offensive touchdowns, too little, too late. You know what? I could also say that one thing that surprised me this weekend was why the Patriots were throwing the football in the final moment. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I can tell Tracy's going to need some decaf during this segment. So if that ball winds up in the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs, what it looked like it almost did. And by the way, this was also a weekend of, we saw a lot of crazy plays like deflection. Michael Floyd caught a touchdown pass off a deflection. Peyton Manning fell down but wasn't touched. Got up and threw a pass. And then and then there was that boring stuff that Aaron Rodgers did Saturday night. Just throwing just amazing. By the way, for people who like numbers like I do, it's the first time since 2003 that all 4 games in the divisional round were each decided by 7 points or less. It was also the first time since 2004 that all 4 home teams won.
Yeah. I think.
Other than that, I can't think of anything.
I'm going to get Dayna in here next, and then we'll let Tracy comment. I think the thing that surprised me the most was I was absolutely impressed with how well the Steelers played and how well they held up with the Broncos. When you consider all of the injuries, everything, all the adversity that they overcame, that's the thing that stands out in my mind. And then, of course, that great comeback. It's not necessarily surprising, but it was one of the things that stands out from the weekend. Dayna, walk us through. Tell us what it was like to be on the receiving end of that and to watch your team have to come from behind and make it a close game at the end.
Sure. Well, one little side note about that Kansas City New England game, can I say too?
Sure.
I get that Justin Houston was a difference maker in this one, in the fact that he didn't play.
He didn't play.
I think that really, we talked about it on the podcast. This was going to be a race to who got to the quarterback the most, and without Justin Houston, Kansas City was completely ineffective at that, and it was really too bad because I think it would have been a really fun game had he been able to get in there. So, so I think that just as a side note. But yeah, for the Seahawks game, here's the interesting thing about the Seattle Seahawks is that we, as fans, have learned in the Russell Wilson era to never count anything until the clock hits 0, because they like to keep us in complete heart attack mode at most of the time. I always say, they must have, cardiac doctors on staff for their fans most of the time. It was hard. We haven't seen 31-0 in years. That doesn't happen to this defense. It's the #1 scoring defense 4 years in a row. So 31-0, what? It makes no sense. But in turn, even at halftime, I looked at my son and I said, this game ain't over. He's like, no, because you just know. Yeah. I mean, we've just learned from the last 2 NFC Championship games, it comes down to the last minute. Yeah. It was a little difficult. You could tell that there was some serious miscues going on between the defense, and that there was some bad communication going on, and that, once again, is kind of unheard of for Seattle. But when they started to roll and they came back, they literally just ran out of time. I think had they had even 3 more minutes left on the clock, they could have still eventually won that game. And, and God love Cam Newton. I'm not a Cam Newton hater. But, when he said, oh, well, we played it safe in the second half. No, you didn't. The minute they started coming back, there was panic. They hit, 17 points, 20 points, whatever it was, and they were playing full force, and Seattle was clicking. But I have to say this, and I put it on Twitter, and I will get murdered for it again, as I did before. I'm really okay with this. I think that our team could use a little bit longer off season, and I know it's a first world problem. It's a first world problem without question. Mm-hmm. But the amount of stress that gets put on me with my football anxiety, going to 2 Super Bowls in a row, the last 2 years have been murder. Mm-hmm. And so I'm ready for a break. Plus, that's a lot of expectation. They can kind of settle this out, come back next year, because this team, I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later about maybe 1 or 2 people not coming back. But this team is solid and coming back, and so it's not like we have to worry about this was their only shot. Right. Russell Wilson's 27 years old. Bobby Wagner's 25. Richard Sherman's 27. They're not going anywhere.
And they've done an absolutely amazing job of reach. Those aren't the words that I'm looking for. Bringing in young guys, new guys, and it's not rebuilding, but just keeping things going is the better way to put it. Yeah.
Dayna, was interesting that you talked about thinking the game was going to be close, and it was, and that's actually kind of the theme of the Seattle Seahawks the last 4 years. I'll give you a number you might not even know. If you include the playoffs, Seattle is 53-21 the last 4 years. That's a pretty impressive record. 20 of their 21 losses by single digits.
Right. There's one 10-point game.
One 10-point game was to the Packers, and that's their biggest loss in the last 4 years. Think about some teams, any team that go. That's pretty impressive. And by the way, you never, as you've all learned, you never count a Russell out, no matter what you think.
No.
Yeah. And that's, the team really kind of wears that stat as a badge. Like they say, you do not blow out Seattle. They will, that's very impressive. And now, though, the bad side of that is fans are starting to expect it, and so they might overreact a little bit at times. But for the most part, there's nothing. The way this season started, we were lucky to get to the playoffs the way they started. So I'm thrilled that it went as far as it did.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that Cam Newton guy a little bit later, too, with some of the things that happened at the end of the game. But I want to get Traci in here and touch real quick upon the Chiefs and the Patriots game, and then we'll turn to the conference championship games because I know Russell needs to get out of here. We had some technical issues. Traci, you and I talked about this game before, before it happened. What surprised you? What didn't surprise you? What did you take away from this game?
Well, I will tell you that I was surprised with no sacks, which we talked about earlier. And the reason I was surprised about that is because as we've talked about, the offensive line has been, we had 16 different offensive line combinations this year, which is the most in the NFL, because we've had so many injuries. And this week we got Sebastian Vollmer back, who's Brady's blindside protector, and I think he really made a difference. Tom was back there. He had plenty of time when he was getting pressure. He stepped up in the pocket a couple of times and was able to, complete passes. Having Edelman back was like, I mean, it was a complete difference maker. You cannot, he's just, I mean, I think he was 10 completions, 10 receptions for 100 yards. And we haven't really seen much offense lately. So I watched the game and I was like, okay, that's my team. The last two games, I was like, I don't even know who that is especially in the Dolphin game. I didn't even know who that was. But it was good. It was a good game to watch. I think that there were a couple of things that they did. The fumble really helped us, and also in the fourth quarter when they were throwing the ball and they should have been running the clock out. I was like, what are you doing? You're going to give Alex Smith the ball back. And they ended up going and scoring a touchdown. So it was fun to watch. But I was surprised at how well the offensive line held up, and that was really good. It made me a lot more confident going into this week.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about Gerard Mayo. You and I talked about him a little bit last week. Russell and I talked about this on my podcast today. I was so thankful to have Russell sit down with me last night. The thing about that game, it was such an Andy Reid playoff game. With the way the clock was managed, with the play calling, and it was not surprising that Doug Peterson faced so many questions that he did over the play calling. Again, we'll talk about that here in a minute. Let's go ahead and get Russell back in here and help us do a preview of the conference championship games, and then we'll let him get out and get back to his very busy schedule. First up, the AFC Championship game. It is the matchup that everyone wanted. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Will this be the last time that we see those two great quarterbacks in the playoffs? Russell, what do you think?
Well, it won't be the last time we see Tom Brady in the playoffs, but it might be the last time we see. Well, obviously, if Denver wins, it won't be the last time we see Peyton Manning in the playoffs. I'll play in 2 weeks. But listen, this has been, and listen, football is a team game, but I understand the novelty of what we have seen for a decade and a half with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. One guy who was the first overall pick in 1998, 2 years later, this guy is the 199th pick. Tom Brady made his first NFL start against Peyton Manning and the Colts, in Week 3 of 2001. So it was almost like this Magic Johnson, Larry Bird type of thing. And it's sustained excellence. You're talking about Peyton Manning has the records with touchdown passes and passing yards. Tom Brady's in the top 5 all time. He's done a lot of that on the back end of his career. One man does not win a championship by himself. Tom's been with better teams because I think the New England Patriots are a better organization than the Indianapolis Colts were for a long time. And that's not a knock on Bill Polian or anything like that. He did a great job, but I think it's safe to say, and this is what makes this year so fascinating, that Tom Brady, for the most part, especially during his career, surrounded by very, very good defenses. Peyton Manning, the emphasis was always on offense. And the defense was I don't want to say an afterthought, but it was, So think about this. 2 years ago, the Broncos were the number 1 offense, scored an NFL record 606 points. He throws an NFL record 55 touchdown passes. And 2 years later, they are the number 1 defense in the league. That's an incredible transformation as far as I'm concerned. But, Peyton, as you can tell, the wear and tear, be it from the neck surgeries, the plantar fasciitis. I mean, it's funny. We say 39 so nonchalantly, I don't even think people realize this. Other than 2011, which, of course, he missed the whole year, this was the first year that Peyton Manning played a season in which he didn't play every game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for the
Yeah.
longest, he never missed a game. From what I understand, he never misses practice. He never missed anything. That's great. That's Iron Man. But Iron Man, gets a little water on him, he gets rusty too.
Right.
Okay, and wear and tear, and that's why you got to admire what Tom is doing right now. I also find it fascinating that both of them at one stage of their career. Tom got hurt in the first quarter of a game in 2008. Peyton, of course, didn't play at all in 2011. There's such similarities between them, and you can see when they meet on the field and the respect between the two of them is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think they understand the magnitude of what they have meant together. Now, then you get to the fan part of it, and it's funny. If you like Tom Brady, it's almost like you're not allowed to like Peyton Manning. And if you like Peyton Manning, you're almost not allowed to like Tom Brady, which I don't understand that. Aren't they both good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like having an argument over cake and pie. I mean, stop.
They're both sweet and
A cold glass of milk. And I understand that fans get passionate, media gets passionate, et cetera, et cetera. But what's funny? I see Peyton, and I don't know what the future holds for him, obviously. I don't think he'll be leaving this game anytime soon. That doesn't mean he won't be playing.
Right.
Wouldn't it be kind of cool if Tom hung around for about 4 or 5 more years and Peyton was the head coach of a team?
It would be
or an
interesting.
offensive coordinator or something like that. I mean, much like some people got tired of Michael Jordan, appreciate what you're watching.
Yeah.
Okay? Because then when we hit a lull, when we don't have this kind of quarterback play, all-time quarterback play, you're going to be complaining about the good old days. Okay? Then again, you watch Tom Brady, I don't know if there's ever going to be a good old day. Okay?
Yeah.
He is right now the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah, he definitely and physically seems to be in a lot better shape. I see Peyton more as a front office type as opposed to being a coaching type. But we'll see. I have no doubt that whatever Peyton decides to do post-playing career, that he will be successful. In what
he is going to be involved in the National Football League probably for a long, long time. And you're probably more correct, obviously, than I am, Sharona. Yeah, I could see him in the front office. I could also see him buy the entire state of Tennessee and do whatever the hell.
Well, the Titans may or may not be available, depending on who you believe.
No, I'm not talking about the Titans. I'm talking about the entire state. Okay.
You're saying Peyton Manning.
Let's succeed. Yeah. Let's succeed, Peyton. Form our own republic.
Manningville.
Yeah.
Manningvania. How's that? Manning.
What about Cardinals, Panthers? Give us your thoughts on that, and then we'll let you get out of here, and we'll talk about some of these other things.
It's funny. Arizona had the #1 offense in the league this year. And if I would have told you that the Arizona Cardinals and Carolina Panthers would be facing each other this week, not only as the 1 and 2 seeds, but as the 2 highest scoring teams in the league, I think that might surprise some people. Yeah. And it's not Arizona that scored the most points. It was actually Carolina that scored 500 points. Arizona not far behind at 489. So both of them averaged well over 30 points per game this season. And both of them kind of did it not only with their offense, but their defense as well. The thing I admire about Carolina is that running game. And, they're going to run it and tell you're going to run it, and they don't care if they're just going to do it anyway. They run it in halftime. They run it in pregame. Okay? Their defense has some energetic playmakers. You could have made a case probably for about 4 guys on their defense of being defensive player of the year, and one of them still could be. I mean, Short, Kuechly, Thomas Davis, Josh Norman, take your pick. And I think what was most impressive about Carolina is it took them a while offensively to kind of get into that groove. And I think some of that had to do with the fact they didn't have Kelvin Benjamin this year. And Devin Funch is slowly but surely. I can tell you this. Ted Ginn must love Cam Newton because the two Are you ready for this? Ted Ginn, I'm just going to do the regular season. He's been in the league since 2007. He's jumped around the league. He has 21 touchdown receptions. He has 15 of them in the 2 stints with the Panthers, which means he has 6 with the other teams he played for. Now, I know he's known more as a kick return and stuff like that, but he's been a great target.
Yes, he has.
And my goodness, he would have hung on to a few of them this year, but the numbers would have been even more. I think he plays to Cam's strength, and Cam throws a ball about as tight a spiral as you are going to see. I think my favorite Cam Newton stat this year was the fact that he came into the season never having thrown 5 touchdown passes in one game. And he did it 3 times in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So you think 35 touchdowns through the air, 10 more on the ground. I know somebody on this panel is not going to like this. I'm kind of leaning both home teams this week for identical reasons. Better defense and running game. I'm an old school guy. Doesn't make me old. But I'm an old school guy, and the tried and true formula in this league is running the ball. I mean, I know we set records for 4,000-yard passers, 300-yard passing games, 100-yard receiving games. Every coach will tell you, what's the first thing you need to do? Stop the run. And Seattle couldn't do it in both games they played Carolina this year. That's what it really, if you really think about it, that's because if you can, no, they got him up there too.
Except for the one explosive play on this last weekend, they held him to 80 yards in 40 tries. So the one run got them good numbers, but in the game before that, they got right through.
There, Dayna? There's my point. I'm not a yards guy. I'm a carries guy.
Gotcha.
Okay, because if you're able to carry the football, you can play action pass.
Yeah.
Football, in some ways, is the ultimate game of keep away. Okay?
That's so true. That's true.
So if you run the ball 41 times, now you think of a team like New England. New England game plans themselves to be one-dimensional. Okay, because they have such confidence in their quarterback being that accurate and so on. But most teams want to run, and I mean, you think about the 4 teams that are left in the playoffs as far as where they rank defensively. I think that says it. But I think I'm looking at a matchup between a cat and a horse.
I like it. The Cardinals-Panthers game features 2 of my favorite teams and 2 of my favorite head coaches. Cam Newton is the MVP. I don't think that there's any question about that. It's going to be great. Russell, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to let you get out of here. Before you do, tell everybody out there where they can find you on social media and find your work.
Well, Bax Football Guru is my Twitter account. We have a lot of fun on Twitter, as everybody knows. You can find my Pro Football Guru page on Facebook. ProFootballGuru.com is the website. You can find my work on Bleacher Report, NFL Spin Zone, maybe a bathroom wall here or there. You never know. I just love what I do, and it's doing shows like this and talking football for a half an hour. But I know one thing my mother always taught me was know when it's time to get out of here. And considering I just picked the Denver Broncos, and Tracy's box is right next to mine, I'm gonna do like a Paul Lynde on Hollywood Squares. Get out of here.
Bye, Russell. Thanks again.
All right, we'll talk to you guys soon. All right.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye. All right, that was Russell Baxter. Thanks again to him for joining us. Dayna, let me get you in here. Give me your thoughts on the Patriots-Broncos game, and then we'll talk about the Cardinals, the Panthers game.
You know what? I look at this game kind of similarly as Russell does. I think I'm a believer, as anyone who's ever read or listened to me knows, that that the defense wins championships, and I believe that. At the same time, you have to be able to keep up offensively with the other team, even if the defense slows them down. And I think that that's what's going to make this AFC Championship so interesting, is that, yes, that defense is amazing, and God love Ware, and all those guys, they're so good. At the same time, Tom Brady slowed down is still Tom Brady, and so you have to then be able to keep up with him offensively. I'm nervous for Denver with the way Peyton played against the Steelers. Now, granted, he looked kind of reminiscent of old Peyton. I'm much like Russell. I'm watching every single game Peyton Manning is in. I think that this game is going to be it's going to be sad to see him go, and so I'm making sure I'm soaking that in. But at the same time, we all can see the deficiencies, and so it'll be really interesting to see if Manning one can actually keep up with a slowed down Tom Brady. I think there's going to have to be some evenness there. I really hope, though, that New England, and God knows Belichick is one of the smartest coaches ever to coach football, and I think that he is smart enough to know he's going to have to run that ball eventually. He's going to have to keep that defense on their toes. They can't do what they did to Kansas City. I think they saw Justin Houston being gone and use that opportunity.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah, and I think that was a huge part of the game plan, which is smart, of course. You're not going to be able to do that in Denver, especially at that altitude, at that cold, and then that defense. And so it'll be an interesting game between the two of them. And this isn't about Tom Brady and Peyton Manning again. This is actually going to be Denver's defense against Tom Brady. And I think that's what's really going to kind of come to be the important thing in the end of this game.
Okay, let me stop you and let Tracy come in here, and then we'll turn to the NFC game. Tracy, what do you think? We'll get predictions, and then we'll turn to the NFC game.
Well, I'm one of those people who I love Peyton Manning. I think he's a great guy. I love watching the two of them play, and I really do appreciate their body of work, both Peyton and Tom, and I really love the respect that they have for each other. Just like Russell said, it makes I like it. It's a great competitive, friendship sort of thing. It's like a love-hate thing. But
they're very supportive of one another too, publicly.
They really are, and I love that. I think that Tom Brady, having been picked 199th. The skinny guy in the combine, who everybody said was slow and didn't have great arm strength, he plays with a chip on his shoulder all the time. And if you tell him he can't do something, that just makes him work harder. He's there. He's the first person there in the morning and the last person to leave. So if you look at it, I agree with Dayna about, as far as the defense, it's going to be very difficult to play against this Denver defense. Peyton did not, to me, look like Peyton. His passes did not look like they have the zip on them that they usually do, and I think a lot of the drops had to do with the receivers
trying to adjust to it.
Because Osweiler is throwing that ball, and I think they got used to that, and this is the first game back. So we'll see how that plays into this week as well. One of the things that the Patriots do almost better than anybody else is they will exploit your weakness. So they will find it and they will exploit it. And you're right, that's what they did with Kansas City. I don't know what they're going to do with Denver, but I have faith in Belichick. He's got something up his sleeve. He usually does. It's going to be tough because playing in Denver is always tough. But, these guys have met each other 4 times in the playoffs, and they're 2-2. So we'll see what happens. I know the home team is always favored, and it's going to be tough, but I have to pick my boys.
Okay. So give me your prediction.
You want to score? Or just
Well, if you're, and I know you are superstitious because I think we talked about this, right? If you
I am very superstitious.
Okay, so all right, I won't make you give me a score then. Dayna, do you want to give me a prediction?
I think that this will be It'll be pretty similar to the Steelers game, I really think. Not in the way they're played, but score line wise. I hate picking a winner in this one because it's just, we'll know in the first quarter, I think, who's going to win this game. I think that's going to come right out. I do lean a little bit toward the Broncos just because I am a believer in that defense. But like I said, if Peyton can't keep up, then it's going to be a done game. I think it's going to be close. I think it'll probably at some point come down to a field goal. So I'm thinking maybe 21-24. I don't think it's going to be a super high-scoring game. And, but I have been really wrong on a lot of these lately, because I thought there would be no way that Carolina and Seattle would be a high-scoring game either, but it did. So
I did not think that would be a high-scoring game either.
I don't think anybody did.
Exactly.
It was crazy. I agree with Dayna. I don't think it, and with what Tracy said too, I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I was thinking somewhere in the lines of 21-17, and it's going to kill me to say this, but I do think that the Patriots are going to win. I love that. I love Denver's defense. I will say this: if Denver's defense does score, then I do think that Denver will win this game. But outside of that, I do think that it's going to be a Patriots win, simply because Peyton's not good in Gary Kubiak's offense. That's patently clear. Even with his issues, that we've already talked about, he's just not good in that offense. I'm not a fan of Gary Kubiak's offense anyway, and I don't think it really suits Peyton. So let's go ahead and talk about the NFC game. Tracy, I'll start with you on that.
Oh, my. Well, I didn't get to see the Seattle-Carolina game.
Oh, no!
It's okay. You didn't miss much. It's fine.
Because I was listening to it in the car, but I'm a visual person, so it wasn't all that easy to, we brought my daughter back to college this past weekend, so we were in the car most of the day. But first of all, I was amazed that they came back. I couldn't, not that I'm surprised that Russell Wilson comes back, but down 31-0, and then to come back and score 24 unanswered points. That's incredible. That was really. I gotta tell you, Dayna, I was really pulling for them.
Oh, thank you.
I was really pulling for them. I was like, come on, you guys. But I did watch the Cardinals game, and I really like the Cardinals. I love Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, who doesn't love Larry Fitzgerald? He's a class act. And they played great. I was really surprised that Green Bay played as well as they did, given that their offensive weapons haven't really been producing. No Jordy Nelson. I was surprised. So. But when it came down to it, Larry Fitzgerald and Carson Palmer were amazing. On the other side of the ball, and I told you I haven't watched a lot of Carolina this year, but they can be very explosive, obviously, and they have great defense. And they're playing in Carolina. I think I have to pick the Panthers in this game.
Okay.
I will be pulling for the Cardinals just because that is like kind of my NFC team. But but I think the Panthers. I think it's almost like destiny this year for them. The way that they've been playing, even when they're in trouble, they seem to find a way to win. So I'm going to pick the Panthers.
Okay. The Panthers are a tough draw at home. Dayna, what about you?
This game I did watch, obviously both games, but here's the thing with the Carolina Panthers this year is that they get themselves in a pickle rather regularly in football, and then they manage to work their way out of it. Or they'll start off really hot, like in the Giants game and the Seahawks game, and completely blow it at the end. And it's fascinating to me that they not only do this on the road but at home. It's not like it's just a road game thing, which is fascinating. But I look at the Arizona Cardinals, and I mean, honest to God, Larry Fitzgerald, he's like the god of football. Everyone loves
He's
Larry.
awesome.
I just every time I see him, I just smile because I know he's like such a good egg. But and I kind of like Carson Palmer. Like I feel bad for the dude. He's been
I
everywhere
know.
and all over, and he plays so well. And and then he got hurt last year and came back so well. So
I know.
I root for him too. And I really am a huge Tyrann Mathieu fan. So I get it. I mean, I get the Cardinals. I just with the way the Seahawks played them the last game of the season, the Seahawks decimated them. And I love it. Some Arizona Cardinal fans were like, oh, well, it's because we put in our secondary. Well, that's after we scored 30 points on you. You put in your second players, But at the same time, what Seattle did was kind of exploit those weaknesses, much like the Patriots do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Carolina is so well coached. Rivera is such a good coach that he's going to find those little cracks in there, too. I'm kind of with Tracy. I just feel like this is Carolina's year. They're kind of destined to it, and they're so similar to some of those younger up and coming teams, like the Seattles, like Denver a couple years ago, like some of those teams, that have just really kind of found their flow and deserve. I think they deserve huge respect. But I think the biggest thing there is that the Arizona Cardinals were #1 in the league for getting first down off of opponents' penalties. They had like double more than everyone else. Arizona is a very tight penalty team. They don't give those away. So I think that could be a huge factor in this thing too. I have to give the nod to Carolina in this game.
Yeah, I think that the Panthers are very good at home. They do have those hiccup games where they jump out and then let teams come back, as Dayna mentioned. I root for storylines. And and so the Larry Fitzgerald storyline is obviously a very good one. He's a guy who started out with a very good quarterback and put up very good numbers, and then bless his poor little pea-picking heart, just didn't have nobody for a pretty long stretch. And now with Carson Palmer is like his Kurt Warner, and those two have a great connection. I was talking to Jess Root, who runs Revenge of the Birds, an SB Nation fan site dedicated to the Arizona Cardinals, and he was talking about Larry Fitzgerald and that they use him as sort of a tight end type of player, and he's kind of a motion kind of guy. And the thing about the Panthers, and they've got a great defense, but their secondary has issues. And Josh Norman, no doubt, is fantastic. Cortland Finnegan has played very, very, very good, considering he was a guy on his couch, It would have been hard for me if Peanut Tillman was still playing, because that would have been a great storyline. You would kind of root for that guy to make it to a Super Bowl and possibly get a Super Bowl win. But I think as tough as Carolina is, and I love Carolina, and like Dayna, I think Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron, is a great coach. I think that and this is an if, because Carson Palmer didn't play his best football in that last game, but if Arizona is able to get rolling on offense, and they've got a great running game, a great multi-purpose running back in David Johnson, who can be very effective in the run game and in the pass game, I think that the young talent that they have in their receiving core, if you consider David Johnson as a weapon too, I think it's going to be too much for Carolina secondary. I really do. If they can get going, and Bruce Arians is a madman on offense, and he's going to throw the ball, and they are going to take risk, and they are going to challenge that secondary. If they're successful, I think they just have too much talent at receiver, with John Brown, with Larry Fitzgerald, with David Johnson, Jerron Brown. They've got some really Darren Fells, a nice tight end. If if they get him involved, I think it could be too much. But on the other hand, Cam Newton and his magic. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it has the potential. I don't think it's going to be. I don't expect Carolina to jump up 31 points like they did in the last game, but I think it could be a respectably scoring game. I do. I could see it being like a 35-31 score. And again, I think both the visiting teams can win this under the right circumstances. So I'm very excited, and it's going to be fun.
I think both of these games, to me, are fascinating because you can really make a case for either one winning.
Yeah.
And that isn't always the case in most football games. In most football games, you can truly give a nod to one or the other. And it's all going to be situational in both of these games. And I think that's why they're going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, very, very, very fun. And, I'm not going to have a rooting interest. I like both of these teams. And I root for storylines. I'm so happy for Cam Newton and all the success that he has had. I've been a fan since his Auburn days. Really didn't like to see some of the things that were said about him in the media, and his success has it's really meant a lot to me because I was very much a defender of him early on in his career, and the Carolina Panther fans are fantastic, and I hope for them. I hope that they do get that win. It's going to be a great game. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that are going to go down in the off season. Dayna, I want to start with you. Marshawn Lynch. What's going to happen with him? What's going to happen with Cam Chancellor? Then we're going to jump over to Traci real quick, and then we'll talk about Cam Newton and Flaggate.
Flaggate. Well, here's the thing. I try and make it through the segment without tearing up a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that Marshawn Lynch's days in Seattle are numbered, and I have a pretty strong feeling that his days in the NFL are numbered. Marshawn Lynch has talked about retiring for 2 years, 3 years actually. He is forever. He doesn't know if he wants to come back. He's got other things to do, all this other kind of stuff. And Marshawn is his own egg. He does not fold to pressure from anyone. And, you think you know what he's going to do. He does the exact opposite. The only reason why I don't think he'll be back in Seattle is just simply because of one thing, and that one thing is Thomas Rawls. Had Rawls not come in and put up those numbers that he did, I think that they'd be begging Marshawn for one more year. But now they don't quite feel that pressure. The nice thing is the biggest cheerleader for Thomas Rawls is Marshawn Lynch. He's forever talking about how fantastic he is, and I love that, and I think that that is great. Marshawn knows the way he plays, he couldn't have a long career. It's just too hard on his body. Now, there is a lot of rumors that he'll leave Seattle or get traded from Seattle or get cut from Seattle or whatever it is and end up in Oakland for a year. And to be quite honest with you, I'm totally okay with that. He lives and breathes that town. That is his home. It's where he's from. He loves it. And I'm totally okay if he wants to go there and play for them for 1 year. I don't think any Seattle fan would really have a problem with that, knowing how much he loves Oakland. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to be long before we know the true fate of Marshawn Lynch. But like I said, with as much as he didn't mind his break this year from his surgery, I don't know if he'll come back at all to any team.
Yeah.
Then Cam Chancellor. Let me tell you, that boy is a thorn in the side. So Cam Chancellor was a god in Seattle. He could do no wrong. He was the boom in the Legion of Boom. Everyone. He had been one of the #1 selling jerseys. I mean, he was loved. And then he got a little greedy, and he held out, and that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. He had just gotten a new contract. It was less than a year, or I guess right at a year and a half old, that contract that he had was. He was the first one they re-signed when they started doing that, because the Seahawks are brilliant. They start to re-sign their guys way early so they can spread it out over a bunch of years. And then he wanted more money, and he wanted more money. And then he held out. And I think had he just held out for training camp, no one would have thought anything. Then he missed the first game. Then he missed the Green Bay game, and that was it for people. When he missed that Green Bay game, he was done. He never got his mojo back this whole season. He never quite had the spark that he had had before. And when Pete Carroll was asked about it, he said flat out that it just took him weeks to get in the groove because he'd missed all that time.
Yeah.
And then he got injured, missed more time, and along came, once again, a rookie, Kelsey McCray, who played beautifully in his place. So I don't know what's going to happen with Cam. He certainly is not going to get more money after this season in any way, shape, or form. And he irritated some people. I told you, Sharona, before, I think once he and Earl Thomas start arguing, that's when you know the days are numbered, because that's just unheard of. I wouldn't be surprised if he's traded. Obviously, he has a couple
That's what
years
I was
left.
going to say. I think he'll get traded.
I think he
I
will
do.
too.
I
Hopefully
absolutely do.
for a really good offensive lineman. That would be great. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed and got an attitude adjustment, or if he was traded. Neither would surprise me at this point.
I think that they'll trade him. It'll be interesting to see. Tracy, what about Gerard Mayo? They just put him on IR. A little bit of a surprise to people, maybe not. What's your take on that?
I was kind of surprised, but he's been hurt on and off quite a bit over the past couple of years, so I'm not sure. I told you before, Sharona, fans love him. He's got a great rapport. The organization loves him, but they're businessmen, and
yes, they are.
They know when it's time, it's time, and I'm gonna guess that that we may not see Gerard Mayo in a Patriots uniform next year, and I don't know what will happen from this point forward, but we sure will miss him. I mean, I love the guy, but I completely understand. I mean, we love Vince Wilfork. I mean, he's playing for Houston, and New England fans were devastated when he left. But we still love him. We still support him. We still send him love all the time, and I think it'll probably be the same way with Gerard Mayo.
Yeah, I think so too. Tracy, I'm going to leave you out of this discussion. You didn't get a chance to see the game. We may get your thoughts on this. I want to talk to Dayna a little bit about Camgate, Flaggate, the situation with the flag. It's just.
I didn't know about that.
Okay,
we did talk about that.
How can you not?
We'll get your thoughts on it then. Dayna, to set the stage. After the game, Cam does this tour around the stadium, high-fiving and everything. A Seattle Seahawks fan was there, handed him a flag. He balled it up and threw it, and everybody lost their minds.
Right.
A lot of Seattle fans lost their minds. It was apparently, according to Twitter friends with a lot of Carolina Panthers people, because I do follow the team closely and I do talk about them a lot. They were bombarded with Seattle fans talking about Cam. What's your take on all of this?
Well, okay, first of all, let me say this. I think it was a Panthers fan that handed him a 12th man flag, if I remember correctly, that it had been taken from a Seahawks fan, and so not here nor there, it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, here's the thing. Okay, first of all, I put this on Twitter. There were a lot of fans who were really upset after that loss, and I think they needed to channel it somewhere. They didn't really channel it in the proper place. They shouldn't have been upset in the first place, but at the same time, I think that's what they did. Here's the thing, really. I like Cam Newton. I like players with a little bit of attitude and spunk. I like, Richard Sherman. God love the man. So I'm all right with it. I like players that have some personality. I'm a huge Deion Sanders fan. I loved T.O. So Cam Newton doesn't bother me at all. I like the kid. I think he's good. I think some of the fans, and I will tell you, none of the fans that I follow on Twitter had any problem with what he did. So I don't know who these people were that got so upset. But the interesting thing about it, I think, is we just have two very different quarterbacks. We have Russell Wilson and Cam Newton. And Russell Wilson would rather step on his own tongue than disrespect another fan base. It would not happen, in any way. Where Cam Newton now has done it multiple times, over the season. And he seems to be the only quarterback who does that. Most of the other quarterbacks kind of ignore the crap. I mean, even Tom Brady, who, anyone who knows me, I'm not the biggest Tom Brady fan, but even when they had all those cheater signs, he just walked past them, just ignored them, and now it's totally cool. And so I think that rubbed, and it wasn't just Seahawks fans, the Green Bay fans, oh man, they got really mad about that Green Bay sign. And so I think that...
Well, the Titans fans got mad about the dance in the end zone thing.
I know. And
you mentioned T.O. He does have a bit of a T.O.
Yeah, which I like.
Aura to him.
I do, and I really like that about him. I like the cockiness. But, I think that's just what it is. So we are used to a quarterback who, who is overly respectful, and a lot of people call him robotic, because he would never do that. And then you have Cam that would, and so I could see where that rubbed people the wrong way. They were just angry. They need to get over it, move on. Who cares?
Did you read the letter, the open letter that was written?
I didn't see it until after, I guess, it'd been up for a day or so. But yeah, and I think I understand the point the woman was trying to get across, that we hold that 12th man flag very sacred. And that is, it's not just a terrible towel, which I know the Pittsburgh fans really love, and that sort of thing. We hold the meaning behind that. I think she was letting that sentiment trying to come out and then put some anger behind it, which it didn't need, so yeah. I get it, but relax. It's just a game, who cares? So, yeah.
Tracy, what about you?
I'm with Dayna, actually. I really don't think it's that big of a deal, although I am not like Dayna in the fact that I don't like those showboating people, the people that are just too overconfident. And maybe it's because I'm old school. Maybe it's because I grew up, in an era where people were more, you do your job like you do it every week. This is your job. You go out there, you do your job.
You've been there.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you've been there. I'm not against people. Everybody gets amped up and excited. I mean, it's a game, and when you get excited. But however, I will say that was his house, and if he wants to do that, that's fine. And, it was the same thing with that Green Bay sign. The Green Bay fans that were, or Carolina-based Green Bay fans that were there, that put that big sign up, and he ripped it down. I don't blame him for that. That's his house. If he, I wouldn't want to see the opposing teams, big signs in my place either. Now, I don't have a problem with the Seattle fans and their 12s. I didn't think it was a big problem that Carolina decided to limit the size of those flags. I think that was fine. A lot of people had a big problem with that. I didn't think there was a problem with that. I understand. I didn't get to read that open letter, but I can understand where that comes from, because fans are passionate, and you're right. They, I think the Steelers fans would disagree with. I think
you're right.
Towels are pretty important to them.
Yeah. But every fan base has their something, right?
Yeah. And so I really don't. I don't think it was a big deal. I understand that people get upset, but
just relax, right? Yeah.
Get over yourself. I think Cam is a guy who feeds off energy, and I agree with Tracy. I think it very much was this is my house. I'm going to defend my house. I'm going to play to my crowd. It was very much his crowd that he was playing to. But I also think that he feeds off that energy, and when he scored the touchdown against the Titans at home in their house, and there were boos and stuff, and I think he feeds off that stuff, and and he just takes it and goes with it, and I understand why fans get mad about that. I love it. I love everything about it. It doesn't bother me a bit. I just sit back and take it all in and just, enjoy it, because I do think that we're seeing his season. I'm getting choked up because I'm such a fan. His season has been so special, and with all the criticism that he's had throughout the course of his career, and to have this season and to be able to do those things and look at the haters and say, this is who I am. And I'm very much a fan of people doing that, being who they are, and saying, no, you can't get too carried away. And I don't think that he has. But, I think that we're seeing something special, and he's made no bones about the fact that he wants to be the biggest. He wants to be LeBron James, the LeBron James of football, a big entertainer, one of the biggest entertainers, a cultural phenomenon, and I think that he's on his way to doing that, and good for him. Good for him. So that's just my take on the thing. We've probably been going in and out. We had some technical issues, so sorry about all of that. And I'm so thankful for Dayna and Traci, two of my sisters at NFL Female, able to join us tonight. We'll get Sonia back next week, and hopefully we'll get Kate back as well. Kate is so busy, and she's got a family, and she has her own podcast, and she's got a lot of things going on. We'll hopefully get her back next week. If not, we'll get into a rotation. We're going to start rotating in with guest hosts again. So we'll make an announcement about that on social media. But I'm thankful that Dayna and Traci were able to join me tonight. I'll go ahead and kick it back over to Dayna to let her tell you who she is again, where you can find her on social media, and to give a plug to the podcast again.
So you can find me at Twitter. It's at DaynaOG. It's DaynaOG. And then I write for the Seattle Seahawks for NFL Female. And then I host the weekly podcast every Wednesday night. It's Wednesday night with NFL Female. And tomorrow night we're just going to recap these games. We're going to talk some coaching hires. I want to talk about how these new coaches are going to fit into their new teams, especially Chip Kelly in San Francisco. I'm so excited.
I know. I wanted to get to that tonight, but it's been such an ordeal that we're not gonna.
Let me tell you, Chip Kelly going to San Francisco. You thought that San Francisco-Seattle rivalry was big before. Oh, look out now! It's crazy.
We talked about that, Sharona and I.
Yeah, we did.
I remember you saying, Dayna, he's a UW guy, and
Oregon, and crazy.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good a lot.
Yeah, and Doug Peterson to the Eagles, and they hired a guy that I like a lot, Jimmy Schwartz is their defensive coordinator. A lot of interesting hires. I wish we could have gotten to that tonight. I'll be very curious and anxious to hear what you ladies have to say about that. Traci, tell everybody where they can find you.
I'm TRACIAMC on Twitter, and I also write for NFLfemale.com, although I've been fairly lax, but I'm going to get back to it.
I've been a little. 2015 was very crazy for me, but hopefully I'm going to be able to get back into more of a writing mode. I'm Sharona. You can follow me on Twitter at Sports by Sharona, and check out my writing at NFL Female and at Pro Player Insiders. And also check out my podcast. We are back up to 2 days per week. We had a show today. We'll be doing another one on Thursday. Ordinarily, we've been doing a Wednesday, Friday. Ordinarily, we do a Monday, Wednesday. We're going to try to get back to Monday, Wednesday next week. But on Thursday, big show. You can check my Twitter page for details on that. Shout out to Liz, as always, for giving us this wonderful opportunity and for allowing I'm so thankful that it's allowed me to meet wonderful women like Dayna and Traci, who are as passionate about football and other sports too, but we're NFL Female. We talk about the National Football League here. And it's been a great resource to meet other women who, are family, who are kind of, my people who are that passionate. And so check out our website. It's great. We have a lot of great content on there. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next Tuesday night with there's a break between conference championship games and the Super Bowl. So we'll cook something up good for you guys next week. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Night.